Move on to my guest. You've heard him of old on this programme, Jonathan Davis, the economist and wealth manager. Hello, Jonathan. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Vanessa.
Well, it does seem, I don't want to judge for everybody, but it does seem as though there are some genuine crowd pleasers in this autumn statement. And in fact, my caller Dave in Bethnal Green is absolutely right. We spoke to Dave Hill of The Guardian, and you would expect him to take a sledgehammer and crush beneath it every single proposal of the Chancellor's, and he wasn't really able to do so. In fact, he didn't want to. He celebrated quite a few of the changes. Stamp duty, particularly this Google tax, so that foreign companies can't set up here and slope off home with the profits without paying any tax. Some people think that it's quite an inspired autumn statement. What do you think?
I think that the bulk of folk confuse the Chancellor with actually being a sound financial manager. His job is to win the next election. That's what Chancellors do. That's what Gordon Brown tried to do, and so on till back to ancient Greece. His job is to try and give things away, to overpromise, because ultimately, of course, they underdeliver, which is the reason why the last lot overborrowed and overspent, and the current lot have overborrowed and overspent, and that's why your listeners under the age of 40 are economically toast.
Why? Why are they toast?
Well, you've been taking the Michael out of how boring the deficit is.
No, I haven't. It's not that I think it's boring. I just wonder whether people in general think it's boring, because it's a kind of low-grade droning drain on everything, but it just rumbles on. But it's rumbled on since we were all born. From before that, it rumbles and rumbles. What I mean is not that it's boring, but that it's so perpetual and so ceaseless that it's almost irrelevant.
Yeah, that's simply not true. We haven't had government finances like we have now until about the last 7 or 8 years. Before that, our government finances were more or less okay. They were depreciating, but they were more or less okay. The last several years, they've been dire. They are dire now. I'll tell you why people don't get the importance of the amount we're borrowing and the amount we owe, because no one's actually putting it into context of what it means for real people.
What does it mean for real people? Because I think real people think what they have to do, what we have to do, somehow or other, is manage our own budget. So if we keep ourselves not too deeply in debt in terms of, credit card loans or mortgages we can't afford or whatever it is, then are we not okay? And does this national deficit not just rumble on without us?
No, because the amount of money that our government now owes is at a previously unimagined amount. I could say the number is 1.5 trillion pounds. It doesn't actually mean anything to anyone, but we're borrowing 100 billion pounds a year. This government has borrowed more than Gordon Brown even borrowed, which is the most sensational thing from a Conservative-led government. And what it means is that the next generation, those who are currently under the age of 40, never mind those under the age of 15, they are the ones who are going to have to pay it back. And what that means is, in due course, Vanessa, you can basically say goodbye to the welfare state, and you can see generation after generation getting increasingly less and less economically viable, and then you have an economy which is toast, and unfortunately you have a society which is extremely unstable and certainly unequal.
But at the other end, don't we have George Osborne saying, right, by 2017 or by 2019 it will be under control? And also, don't we have very ordinary people, let's say in London, who have never been rich, never been wealthy, but have been on the property ladder just by virtue of being old and having started a long time ago, who at some point will shuffle off this mortal coil and will leave God knows how depleted by inheritance tax they will or won't be by this point, but we'll leave whatever comes of the sale of their 2-bedroom flat in Crouch End or their terrace house in Lambeth or whatever it is to the next generation. So all those 40-year-olds or under 40-year-olds who you say are going to be struggling, combating starvation and wretchedness for their entire lives, won't they actually in the end be brought more level? Because in the end, their parents and grandparents will die, and they will, not all of them obviously, but some of them benefit from that.
There are two issues that you've raised there. The first one I want to cover,
right?
That there will be a budget surplus in 5 years' time. What a total piece of rubbish. There is absolutely no way on earth that the next government, whoever it is, will take the hard decisions which will be required in order to get the government finances under control. It is not going to happen, and which means we're going to be even more in the mire. Now, to your second point, have you never heard of the cost of long-term care? Have you never heard that it costs getting on for £50,000 a year now for an elderly, infirm person to be looked after? I can assure you that the way the cost of living is going, that whatever vast amount of money there is for, say, half of the population in London in their properties, much of it will be dwindled before they die and pass over those estates.
God, you are relentlessly wretched in your predictions and everything else. It's so miserable. I feel like just putting my head down on the desk and weeping. So this is what I'm going to ask you. If you had been George Osborne, Jonathan Davis, what would you have put in your budget? And would it have been so stringent, so punitive, so full of cuts, and so acknowledging of the deficit and the imminent bankruptcy and the general tragedy surrounding all of us, that the country would have had to revolt and possibly imprison you in the Tower? I mean, what would you have done if you'd been him?
Well, see, that's the thing. I'm not a professional politician. All of these guys, and it's important that people don't say that don't get from this George Osborne bad, everyone else good. No, they're all the same, and that includes the upstarts as well. They're all the same. No one is talking about getting to grips with the fundamentals of the problem.
Right. What would you have said? How should we be getting to grips with it?
We should, first of all, be admitting the problem. Everyone knows that when you're an alcoholic, the first way to get sorted is to admit the problem.
Right.
We are debt-aholics. There is no question about that. The country is financially bankrupt, and we are paying the price already because for 6 years, earnings have not been keeping pace with the cost of living. Maybe high earners don't appreciate this, but believe me, 60% of the population do. 60%. So what we need to do is, first of all, let the market set interest rates. This nonsense about effectively zero interest rates, all it does is keep the party going for a little bit longer, but it screws savers and it screws the next generation. If, however, the market was allowed to set interest rates, then I tell you that would be a major solution to the problem. That would be the one thing that I would do.
Thank you for talking to us. Jonathan Davis there, economist and wealth manager. God, way to burst your bubble to talk to Jonathan Davis. He's very good, isn't he? But miserable beyond belief, as always. Maybe you think that's reality.